Oh, sorry, my bad.
Sorry,
I don't
the
think it
thing
was recording.
went off and it wasn't recording.
I don't think so.
We're on page 59. We're talking about Kant. Read the first part. Sorry. Okay, nevertheless, we can't avoid studying philosophy because, as C.S. Lewis said, good philosophy must exist if for no other reason because bad philosophy needs to be answered. Kant's philosophy is bad philosophy, yet it has convinced many people that there is an unbridgeable gulf between them and the real world, that there's no way you can get any reliable knowledge about what the world is really like, much less what God is really like. According to Kant, we are locked in complete agnosticism. We don't know about the real world. Thankfully, there's a simple answer to all of this: the Roadrunner tactic. Kant commits the same error as Hume. He violates the law of non-contradiction. He contradicts his own premise by saying that no one can know the real world while he claims to know something about it, namely that the real world is unknowable. He knows that the real world is unknowable. You see how that contradicts itself. If you can't know anything, you can't know that you can't know the world. Does that make sense? A little bit at least, yes.
Kant should just preface everything with saying, I don't know about this guy, but you can't know anything. That would make more sense.
Maybe, but to say you don't know anything is to say you know something. You know that they don't know anything.
That's when people say all I know.
So it can't be true, right? If you know that someone doesn't know anything, then you're saying there's such a thing as wrong. That you can know. Yes.
Would the Roadrunner tactic work on a paradox?
I don't know. I'd have to know something more specific. Okay. In effect, Kant says the truth about the real world is that there are no truths about the real world. Since these self-defeating statements can stump even the sharpest mind, let's look at Kant's error another way. Kant is also making a logical fallacy called the nothing but fallacy. This is a fallacy because nothing but statements imply more than knowledge. Kant says he knows the data that he gets to his brain is nothing but phenomena, but in order to know this, he would have to be able to see more than just the phenomena. In other words, in order to differentiate one thing from another thing, you have to be able to perceive where one thing ends and the other begins. For example, if you put a white piece of paper on a black desk, the only way you can tell where the paper ends is by seeing some of the desk that borders it. The contrast between the paper and the desk allows you to see the boundaries of the paper. Likewise, in order for Kant to differentiate the thing in the real world from that which his mind perceives, he would have to be able to see both. But this is exactly what he says can't be done. He says only the phenomena in the mind can be known, not the noumena, his term for the real world. If there's no way to distinguish between the phenomena and the noumena, then you can't see how they might differ. And if you can't see how they might differ, then it makes much more sense to assume that they are the same. In other words, that the idea in your mind accurately represents the thing in the real world. What we are saying is that you really do know the thing in itself. You really do know the tree you are seeing because it is being impressed on your mind through your senses. In other words, Kant was wrong. Your mind doesn't mold the tree molds your mind. Just think about a wax seal. It's not the wax that impresses the seal, it's the seal that impresses the wax. There's no gulf between your mind and the real world. In fact, your senses are your windows to the real world. And senses, like windows, are that through which we look at the outside world. They are not that at which we are looking. In a philosophy class Norm, was teaching, I pointed out the flaws in Kant's philosophy this way. I said, first, if Kant claims that he can't know anything about the real world, the thing itself, then how does he know the real world is there? And second, his view is self-defeating because he claims that you can't know anything about the real world while assuming that he knows the real world is unknowable. One student blurted out, "No, it can't be that easy, Dr. Geisler. You can't destroy the central tenet of the last 100+ years of philosophical thought in just a couple of simple sentences." Quoting one of my favorite source, the Reader's Digest, I responded, "That's what happens when a beautiful theory meets a brutal gang of facts." Besides, whoever said that refutation has to be complex? If someone makes a simple mistake, it only takes a simple correction to point it out. There's nothing complex about the Roadrunner. He's simply fast and effective. Hume and Kant are wrong. So what? Since Hume and Kant violate the law of non-contradiction, their attempts to destroy all religious truths fail. However, just because Hume and Kant are wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have positive evidence for, say, the existence of God. The Roadrunner tactic can only reveal that a proposition is false. It does not provide positive evidence that any particular claim is true. So, is it true that a theistic God exists? Is there any knowable evidence that will give us reasonable certainty one way or the other? Is there such a thing as knowable evidence for an unseen God? To answer those questions, we need to investigate how truth itself can be known. So we'll stop there, and we're going to talk about quick questions 4 and 5 now. So page 19 in your little atheist book. Why should people be agnostic about Immanuel Kant's agnosticism? Remember that he's saying whatever you see or touch or hear, you can't really know. You only know what your brain makes of it, yes.
He's essentially making the claim that there is no truth, there's no way to know it, but he's claiming that he knows that truth.
He's claiming a truth that you can't know truth. That's self-defeating. Yes.
I would say, to word it differently, to claim that subjectivity is the only, to claim that there is no objective truth, only subjective truth, is to claim it.
It is. That's stated as an objective truth. Okay. Anything else? I wrote a few things down here. Kant claims that no one can know the real world, only the representation they perceive. But this is self-defeating. Claiming no one can know anything, Kant claims to know something. So, namely, that no one can know anything, but he knows something. Nobody else does. What's the likelihood of that? Give you a little time to write down what you write down. Can the Roadrunner tactic prove that God exists or that Christianity is true? Why or why not, Eli?
I said that it shows either God exists or he doesn't, and that's what that matters.
No, I don't think that's quite right. Yeah.
It can't claim that it's true, it just can't claim that it's true.
Yeah, it can't prove anything positively. It can only disprove things negatively. So it can't prove theories. It can only prove theories wrong. It can't positively prove. Don't worry, we're going to get to the proof of God. Now, I'm going to give you a homework assignment, and you can start on that now. You're going to read in your big atheist book pages 62 to 69. So you're going to pick up where we just left off. Nope, on page 61. And then I should say 61. And then you're going to read the rest of the chapter, and you're going to answer the equips 6 and 7. So I'm going to write that on the board.
Why not do it internally?
We were just supposed to do the game once.
Yeah.